Hey, what's up, guys? Sanjay Shinoy here from Team Pixel Track, and welcome to this brand new video in Content Marketing Mastery. As always, let's do a quick recap of what we learned in the previous video. We learned why it is so important to start with a bang and why it is so important to have an introduction which creates that bang for your users, and how they can how your introductions can help you retain the attention of the users, and what are the elements of an intro. We learned about the HTT method of structuring an intro, which is the hook transition and thesis. These are the elements of an intro, and we saw how we can use it into making a fantastic intro, and what are the ways you can grab your users' attention with your intros. And we also saw a few examples and samples of great intros. Now, once you're done with all the intro, now it's time to start structuring your paragraphs, and so in this video we'll see what you're going to be learning. You'll be learning why do you even need paragraphs, and why it is important to structure the paragraphs the way we are going to be teaching in this particular video. The legato and staccato writing styles, it's again borrowed from the music industry, but it kind of makes sense for you to understand what it means. I'll go deeper into this. Again, elements of a paragraph and tips for writing better paragraphs. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get started with structuring paragraphs. So why do you even need paragraphs, you may ask? The most important reason why you would be needing paragraphs is because paragraph gives you rhythm. It gives rhythm to your writing, and you might have observed this, that you do this very naturally when you're talking, and you might be observing that I'm doing this very naturally when I'm talking, right? You have a certain sense of rhythm to however you speak. You use body language, you use intonation, you use you stress a few points. If you have to whisper, you whisper. You choose your words wisely. You do a lot of things when you're talking to convey a point. Basically, you are creating that rhythm. You're creating a personality around by the way you talk, and that's exactly what you should be doing when you're writing also. And paragraphs are definitely one of the best tools to do that, because if you don't have a rhythm, then your writing becomes extremely monotonous, because you're not sitting across the table with your user. You cannot show your excitement, you cannot surprise them, you cannot stress enough points with them, and you need to do that using these paragraphs. You should always keep them excited, you should always keep throwing them surprises. You need to stress on things that are very important, and paragraphs help you do that. And I will explain this to you with the example of a musical term which is called legato and staccato. And basically the difference between legato and staccato is pretty simple. When you play the legato way of playing music, one note flows into the other note, and when you do staccato, it's more fiery and it's more abrupt. The notes don't flow into each other. It's like pa 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 pa, something like that. Legato would be more like pa, and then it flows into the other note. And as you can imagine, the legato style of writing makes it more fluid, but the staccato style of writing makes it more fiery. If you want to write if you want to paint a picture, a legato way of writing would be more better. If you want to convey stronger points, the staccato way of writing is more better. So which is why you might have seen in novels and all of that, the legato way of writing is more pursued, because they have to paint a picture, it has to be more fluid. But whereas when it comes to copywriting, say for example the emails that you got about this course at all, it follows a very staccato way of writing. It's very fiery way of writing. There is only one sentences in each paragraphs, and the next one goes to another paragraphs, and those are the different ways paragraphs affects the way your users are reading or understanding your content and consuming your content. And that's exactly what you should be doing. Now, don't mistake me, you shouldn't be doing it only the legato way, wherein you have longer paragraphs, more fluid, and then it's only that where you have big chunks of paragraph going throughout your blog, or there are only one sentence paragraphs throughout your blog. It has to be somewhere in the middle, because when you give that variation is what gives rhythm to your writing. And depending on the length of the paragraph that you have, the rhythm keeps changing for your writing. So you need to play around with the paragraphs, the length of the paragraphs, and the legato way of writing would have much more lengthier paragraphs, which where you're making a point, elaborating a point, making it more fluid, and then flowing on to another point. But staccato will have shorter paragraphs, probably just one sentence in each of these paragraphs, but you're like making quick points for people to consume things quicker. Now, it completely depends on who your reader is and how they might want to consume their content, and you have to like choose the way for your writing exactly like that. I tend to mix around with this style of writing, but you might observe that I am more towards the staccato way of writing, because that basically works out very well for your online readers. But there are many writers who write it in the legato way also, like the example that I showed you in the previous video, which was Wait But Why by Tim Urban. He writes really long paragraphs elaborating points, and is very fluid in his writing the same way. So you need to add different kinds of variations in terms of paragraph lengths, which will give your writing a rhythm. So just keep this in mind. Paragraphs help you in giving rhythm to your writing. It makes people pause for a bit. It'll surprise people, it'll excite people, it'll let people know where they should be stressing, and all of these things happen with paragraphs, which is why paragraphs are super important. And especially considering online readers in mind, let's try to find out what are the different elements of a great paragraph. So, what are the elements of a paragraph? Ideally speaking, conventionally speaking, strictly speaking, this is how a paragraph should structurally look like. So check it out. So a paragraph should form a thematic unit. Whatever points that you have which come across as the same theme, you have to put all of them together in one paragraph. So it should always form a thematic unit. Not only can you not form thematic units, and like just you can't have points which are closely related scattered throughout the piece of content, but also you have to keep in mind that you cannot have two very unrelated points in a paragraph, so that way it will not make sense, right? So it always has to be a thematic unit. Ideally speaking, it has to contain one core sentence, which is a concept, a little bit of elaboration, and a closing sentence. So if you want to start off, if you're just starting off writing, if you're very you don't want to experiment right now, or you're not sure what style of writing is for you, you can follow this particular rule right here. Just have one core sentence, a little bit of elaboration, and one closing sentence. So this is what you need to keep in mind when you're thinking about creating a paragraph. And use line breaks effectively, basically the white space between each paragraphs. It's very tempting to just add line breaks randomly, because it might feel like you're making the whole piece of content look aesthetically more appealing, but at some level you might be compromising on the comprehension of the content itself. So use line breaks effectively, don't overuse it, use it very wisely, use it very frugally. That kind of again brings in the rhythm that was we're talking about. When you use line breaks effectively, it adds to the rhythm for your content piece and makes it so much more better to read. So let me show you a few examples of paragraphs that we will understand what I'm talking about here. So this is one example of a paragraph which I wrote about paragraphs. I can't believe all of these videos are becoming so meta. Anyway, so this is an example of a paragraph that I wrote. So as you can see here, I'll just read it out for you for people who might not be able to read it properly. So lots of people make mistakes while creating paragraphs, full stop. Some writers just put white space in their text in random places for aesthetic purposes, but don't think about the coherence and structure of the text. In many cases, the coherence within paragraphs and between paragraphs remains unclear. These kind of mistakes can mess up the structure of your articles. As you can see, this is a more legato way of writing, wherein the points are very fluid, very closely related to each other, and it is forming a thematic unit, and each point is flowing into the other point very effortlessly. And this is one way of writing it. And as you can see, the first sentence is lots of people make mistakes while creating paragraphs. That is the main point. That is the core idea that this paragraph is trying to send across. So, and then there is some elaboration that follows, which is some writers just put white spaces. We are talking about how they are making these mistakes for aesthetic purpose, but don't think about the coherence and structure of the. In many cases, the coherence within paragraphs and between paragraphs remains unclear. So this is the elaboration of what kind of mistakes people make, and then there is a closing statement which is these kinds of mistakes can mess up the structure of your articles. Do you see what I'm talking about here? How to structure paragraphs, how to make it into a thematic unit, and if you write it in a legato way, how each point is flowing into the next point very effortlessly, and it kind of brings you that rhythm also when you're reading. Now, I'll show you another example. So, this is another way of writing. Uh, you might recognize this because I just took it from one of the emails that we sent for the content marketing course. So, this is one way to write. So, imagine you get up in the morning, finish your morning chores, meditate or exercise, have your breakfast, open your laptop, go through your research notes, and start writing. You write for an hour or so, then take a break. Now, do you realize how there was an automatic rhythm when I was actually reading it out, also? And the way you were picturing it in your head was also like really quick and fiery, right? So it was not leading, one sentence was not leading into the other, but all of this put together was painting a picture for you. So, this I would say is more of a staccato way of writing things, which is very fiery. You just have like one main core point in each sentence, and then you just like keep writing like that. So this is very effective when you're writing copy, especially for email marketing or probably like landing pages also. And this requires a lot of practice and a very good understanding of what you're writing and why you're writing each of these lines. So you can definitely experiment with both of them, and both of these examples are on both the extremes, right? As you can see, the previous example was legato, which had a considerable size in terms of paragraph. Here, each paragraph is just one sentence. So if you want to, you can meet somewhere in the middle, and have shorter sentences, but shorter paragraphs, not just like one sentences in each of these paragraphs. So when you add that kind of variation, you see the kind of punch, you see the kind of effect a single sentence paragraph gives, right? It just quickly puts an image into your head and just like goes to the next one. So that is how you create the rhythm. That is how paragraphs help you create that rhythm. So I hope you got the hang of how you can like work around or play around with paragraphs and the length and size of paragraphs to stress on points, to make points more fluid, to make more points very connected to each other. So I'm going to share a few more of tips to make better paragraphs. I think the first one, in present day and age, shorter paragraphs are almost mandatory. Don't make it too big, wherein it becomes like a wall of text. So because this is purely because the attention span of users is not as much as you think it is, right? So if you make it very quick, if you make it very fiery, at the same time you make it very rhythmic, shorter paragraphs will definitely help you retain the attention of your users. Don't have more than 5 6 sentences in each paragraph. I mean, this you can say it almost as a rule which you cannot break, especially if you're writing a blog or something like that. So don't have more than 5 6 sentences in each paragraph. Even lesser will do, but more than this might like put it off and like make it like look like a huge wall of text. Add variation to your paragraph lengths. Like I said, don't keep it always big paragraphs, and don't always write in single sentence paragraphs. So mix it up, add variation to your paragraph lengths, and don't do it because you want to add variation. Add these kind of variation to put out that excitement, to surprise your readers, to stress on certain points. You are imagine paragraphs as your body language. That's how you need to treat it as. And once you add variation where it is properly necessary and properly needed, it becomes so much more better. And always keep mobile users in your mind, because The whole reason why you need to keep paragraphs shorter is because it makes so much of a better reading experience for mobile users when you keep your paragraph short. Otherwise, it'll just be a huge wall of text on their mobile screens. It is such a turn off to read such huge paragraphs of text. So keep in mind your mobile users. Just think about how they might be experiencing or consuming your content on mobile devices. So that's about it for this particular video. Thank you very much for watching it. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know what kind of experiments we did with paragraphs. And if you have any feedback, if any comments on the video, drop in the comment section or send me an email to sanjay@pixeltrack.in. Don't forget to check out my blog on sanjayshenoy.com. Thank you very much, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.